so much, Emma, for the invitation, and it was really lovely to hear from Siraj and to hear what was going on in his multi-academy trust and hear him sharing his wisdom with others. Forgive me if I look down occasionally, because we are voting at the moment, so I do have to just keep half an eye on my mobile phone. So thank you so much, Emma, and thank you for the NGA for inviting me to speak at this event. And although I'm really pleased to see that, like many governing boards, you've moved remote to have this event virtually, I do see that it was entitled a Chair Celebration event. So I don't actually think really a virtual event can actually be quite the same if that's the title of your event. But I'd also like to extend my thanks to Maggie Bull, who sits as the Chair of Trustees for the NGO and has dedicated herself to governance for some years. And I understand that this is towards the end of her term in office, so I do want to take this opportunity to thank her. It's so good to see so many of you virtually having signed up for this conference, and I think this underpins the importance of events such as this, and indeed the importance of the NGA in supporting you within your governance role. I'm sorry that I'm not able to join you for the whole event, but Emma described that's probably in her introduction, you all understand why, but from the agenda it looks like you've had some really good discussions. I would like to thank you as chairs, as well as your boards and those who support your boards, the clerks, which I saw someone on the chat, I think it was David Mann, paying tribute to his clerk, the governance professionals and senior leaders for the work that you all do and for the time that you give to governance. The recently published NFER governance research and the NGA's latest survey has shown us that the time given by chairs in undertaking their role should not be underestimated, neither should the amount of work that you do. And I don't forget that this is a voluntary role. All of you will be juggling this role alongside other jobs and commitments. The coronavirus outbreak has, despite the unbelievable challenges you have had to surmount, shown the remarkable resilience of leaders, teaching staff, governors and trustees at schools and academy trusts across the country. I've been so happy to hear stories of the support that school leaders have been offering to their peers. Star Academy Trust has been working with a primary school in Bolton on full reopening, as well as coaching and mentoring their senior leadership team. In Gloucestershire, I understand that a trust has been helping out a small school in Tewkesbury with remote education, especially for those most vulnerable students, to ensure there is consistency of education. And I've learned of the wonderful work of Lumen Learning Trust in Surrey, stepping in to enable a school to develop risk assessments and allow for full September reopening. The governance sector has also had to adapt quickly to new ways of working, learning new technology for some, and providing support to school leaders throughout the pandemic. Boards led by you have had to ensure that plans for the further reopening of schools were and continue to be robust and risk assessed. Because of this, children across the country are getting access to the education they deserve. Over 99% of schools have been open every week since term began, with over 7.3 million pupils attending last week to learn from brilliant teachers and spend time with their friends. And those figures are a tribute to your work. Since the start of the coronavirus outbreak, the pressure and burden on both school leaders and staff has been unprecedented, focusing not only on their pupils' learning, but their welfare as well. As chairs, along with your boards, a key responsibility for you, especially at this time, has been to be conscious of the well-being, both physical and mental, of your school leaders and staff. I was pleased to hear at a recent meeting I had with the NGA that they have published an evaluation toolkit for governing boards and school leaders that focuses on well-being. I would encourage you and your boards to use that document in supporting your staff and school leaders. The role of chair of a governing board is critical. When done correctly, it can have an incredibly positive effect on the board, the school or trust, its staff and pupils, and the surrounding community. But when done poorly, it can create misplaced diversions and can contribute to school or trust failure. Following discussions with the governance sector, the department has recently published 2 new documents that aim to set out the various roles within school governance more clearly. One for the maintained sector and one for the academy sector. Within those documents, we've specifically set out at high level our expectations of the role of the chair, and I hope that that is of assistance to you. But as you well know, your role goes far beyond just chairing meetings. Your role requires you to lead the board, ensuring along with the clerk that it's functioning effectively. You need to set the highest expectations of professional standards of governance and provide clear leadership and direction to the board so that it delivers on its 3 core functions, yet does not stray into operational matters. You should also be engaging with the wider school or trust and your local communities, as I know many of you do. It's a big ask, but one that I know can reap rewards and have a positive personal impact. It concerns me, however, though, that many boards do not have succession plans in place for when the chair steps down. It is more worrying, as shown within the recent NFER School and Trust investigative report, that existing governors and trustees don't consider becoming the chair as a viable next step in their governance role. I believe this needs to change. Succession planning is essential to ensuring continuity of leadership. In some ways, the difficulties in appointing a new chair can be seen as the victim of the current chair's success. As chairs, the majority of you will be very active in your role, and for those who are witnessing this, they may feel that they are not able to provide the same level of commitment and do not have the same amount of time available. But chairing doesn't have to be done in exactly the same way as the previous post holder, and this is the message that needs to go out to the sector. Like with other governance roles, an individual should volunteer to be a chair, not be coerced, because there is a vacancy coming up. There's a difference between coercing and nurturing. As current chairs, I look to you to help nurture board members who may be interested in the future in stepping up into that leadership role, whether that be at your school or, of course, in another setting. But it's not just effective succession planning that needs to be in place. Recruitment of volunteers and the right volunteers remains important. Boards should not all be cut from the same cloth. It doesn't help boards with their business, and it isn't always conducive to effective challenge. Diversity on boards is critical to maintain this effective challenge and to ensure boards better reflect the communities that they serve. I know NGA feel very passionately about this as well. NFER and NGA research tells us there's still a lot of work to be done in this area, especially in terms of increasing the proportion of governors and trustees from BAME backgrounds. This may mean that you as chairs may need to work with your clerk on looking at your current processes for encouraging volunteers. I urge you to challenge yourselves on how you can ensure that the roles are as attractive as possible to potential volunteers who may not have considered volunteering previously. And I know I need to do my bit in promoting governance. An important part of my role is going into schools and trusts. Unfortunately, since taking up my ministerial post at the department in February, I've had less opportunity to do this than I would have liked. While the local and regional impacts of coronavirus continue to be felt, the likelihood of these visits being able to take place and be helpful to schools as well in the near future is still less certain. But I'm keen, when appropriate and wherever possible, to get out and meet those of you who are doing such an essential role in our education system, and to use my platform to publicise that work more widely. I know that funding continues to be a high priority for you. It is more important than ever that governing bodies and boards have robust oversight of how school budgets are being spent, including the planning for needs-based universal catch-up. I hope that the NGA does not mind me saying this, but I understand they will be updating their module learning on financial governance and are developing one on integrated curriculum financial planning, which I very much welcome. I urge you to make use of the tools that are available, including the department's financial benchmarking tool and the incredible useful View My Financial Insights tool that will allow you to compare the finances of your schools with those similar to your own, and where appropriate make savings. I have to say, it's one of the best parts of my job is when I go on those tools and I use them and can see the comparable and see the possibilities that are there. They really are. These tools are free and they really are invaluable resources to help with the oversight of school finances and resources. A number of these are provided in the latest update of the Governance Handbook. On which note, hopefully you are all aware of the latest governance documents which we have published recently and are intended to support you in your role. This includes the Governance Handbook update, which provides clarification on a number of areas. I recognise it is a big document, but I believe that this is testament to all that you do and the breadth of your role. The immediate future, however, remains unsettled, and there will continue to be challenges ahead. for all of you, but I am confident, having heard so many stories of how trusts, school leaders and governing boards have worked together to deliver the best education to their pupils, that our country's school system is in capable and experienced hands. I particularly again want to thank those of you who, despite the challenges within your own trusts and schools, have stepped up to help other schools who have needed that support. Thank you so much for making that time available. We really appreciate it, and I'm sure there will be and know there's been an impact on many children's education outside of your school or trust. Thank you so much for your time.